From plein air to studio. How exactly do I take my quick sketch of this scene and turn it into a fairly detailed and complex rendering? First, I have to find the right scene. So this is what was in the area, and I decided on a view looking directly into the light across the tops of the boats in the marina. You can see that the tide is way out and there is bare mud under some of the nearer boats. I started with a very quick, rough drawing, despite this being a complicated scene. Because I thought I only had half an hour to paint, I did not take as much time drawing as I might otherwise have. I was really setting up to just collect as much information as I could in the way of color, and also I would practice painting the large shapes as simply as I could. Here is my first wash. I painted these areas in as quickly as I could, not worrying too much about what was boat, what was wharf, and what was water. I was focused more on getting colors that reflected the sense of light and on painting around the brightest lit areas and leaving them white. You can see that the tide has come in a bit now. And while we are here, have a look at those stairs. You might wonder why we put our boats way down there at the bottom of a big ladder. Well, this is why. Digby is on the Bay of Fundy, and so we have really big tides. The docks and the wharves have to be built to accommodate a 30-foot change in water level twice a day. At this point, I discovered I had more time than I thought I did, so I settled in to work a bit more slowly and intentionally. I started adding the darker masses to the background, and I got wrapped up in painting. I forgot all about the camera, so this next clip is after I was done sketching. Even as I finished my sketch, I realized that it had some errors. I'd been tricked yet again by the incoming tide, and also by having rushed the drawing. I hadn't drawn the heights of the masts at the beginning, but rather drew them in as I was going along near the end of my sketching time. The tide had come in about 8 feet by then, so the tops of the mast are more than 8 feet higher against the horizon than they should be. Oh well, every now and then the tide gets me. And speaking of the tide, here's where it's got to. Back to my sketch, in some ways I did accomplish my goal. I observed the light, and I made useful color notes. I practiced painting the masses of the wharf and the grouped boats as simply as possible. There's nothing like a rising sun and incoming tide to make an artist focus on working efficiently. And now I've got enough to take this into the studio and to work from it. To do that, I drew out the scene using photos for reference for the shapes and the placement. I transferred that drawing onto watercolor paper and I started the larger painting using the same process I had used on location. One large wet wash to cover as much of the paper as possible. I tried to keep my colors very close to what I had recorded in my sketch. This underlaying wash of warm and cool colors shows through in the final painting. And again, as on location, in the studio I'd forgotten to take any photos between the preliminary wash and the finished product. But I think I stayed fairly close to what I had observed in the scene. And if you want a closer look at this painting, you can visit poppybalser.com to get a good look at it. And I thank you for watching.